Hello everyone, and you are following the latest international news. The U.S. Department of Justice has been directed to investigate the pardons granted by President Joe Biden in the final days of his presidency to family members and several other death row inmates. The Justice Department's pardon attorney, Ed Martin, said he will open an investigation into whether former President Joe Biden was competent and whether others took advantage of him through the use of automatons or other means. An automaton is a device that automatically signs documents. President Donald Trump and his supporters have repeatedly made unfounded claims that Joe Biden's use of this type of device while in office was illegal, or that he was not fully aware of these actions. However, it is still unclear whether Biden used an automaton to sign the pardon. In the email, McCain said he would focus on investigating Biden's pardons to some family members and his decision to overturn the death penalty and commute the sentences of 37 federal inmates to life in prison. On January 20th, Biden decided to pardon 5 family members, saying he wanted to protect them from future politically motivated investigations. This move came just before he handed over power to President Trump. The pardons were Mr. Biden's siblings, including Joe Biden, Frank Biden, and Valerie Biden Owens, and their spouses Joan Owens and Sarah Biden. In early December 2024, Mr. Biden also pardoned his son Hunter Biden, who faces sentencing for 2 criminal cases related to tax evasion and gun purchases. According to ABC News, no son of a sitting U.S. president has ever faced criminal court. Mr. Biden also told ABC News in an interview in June 2024 that he would not pardon his son. During his first term as president, Mr. Trump also pardoned many political allies, including 5 defendants convicted in special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, as well as celebrities, members of the Republican Party in Congress, and the father of Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. Hello everyone following the latest international news. Ladies and gentlemen, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt recently said that President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping may speak by phone this week. White House Secretary Leavitt said there may be an upcoming call between the two leaders to resolve differences over last month's tariff agreement in Geneva, along with trade issues planned after President Trump accused China of violating the agreement to remove tariffs and trade restrictions. It is not yet clear when the two leaders will have a conversation or phone call. Previously, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Beshir shared with CBN News' Fade the Nation that President Trump and President Xi Jinping will speak very soon to resolve trade issues, including the dispute over critical minerals and China's restrictions on the export of certain minerals. President Trump also affirmed on May 30th that he will definitely speak with Mr. Xi. Meanwhile, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative said it would continue to exclude some solar energy equipment and other products from existing tariffs on Chinese goods until August 31st. The U.S. Treasury Secretary said trade talks between Washington and Beijing, led by Mr. Bashir in Geneva last month, were now stalled despite the two sides reaching an interim deal to ease tensions in the trade war between the world's 2 largest economies. The deal included a triple-digit tariff reduction over 90 days, which helped fuel a strong rally in global stock markets. But it did not address the core issues that led President Donald Trump to impose tariffs on Chinese goods, mainly long-standing U.S. complaints about China's state-dominated economic model and export promotion policies. Those issues remain open for future rounds of negotiations. In a related development, a U.S. trade court ruled on Wednesday that Mr. Trump had exceeded his authority when he imposed tariffs on imports from China and other countries under the Emergency Economic Powers Act. However, less than 24 hours later, a federal appeals court reinstated the tariffs, temporarily halting the earlier ruling while it considers the administration's appeal. The appeals court ordered the plaintiffs to file a response by June 5th, while the administration must file a response by June 9th. Mr. Trump made the invitation in early November, according to anonymous sources, but it is unclear whether Mr. Xi will accept the invitation to the event on January 20th, 2025. In addition, Mr. Trump's team has considered inviting world leaders, including Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. World leaders are looking forward to meeting President-elect Trump because they know he will soon return to power and restore peace through American power around the world. Karoline Leavitt, a spokeswoman for the transition team and Trump's new press secretary, told CBS News. Trump's team and the Chinese embassy in the United States have not commented on CBS News report. Earlier, according to Reuters in an interview with NBC News on December 6th, Mr. Trump said that he got along very well with President Xi Jinping and that they had just had a recent conversation that week. Mr. Trump has appointed many hardliners on China to key positions in his upcoming administration, including Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Mr. Trump has announced that he will impose an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods unless China does more to stop the drug trafficking of fentanyl. He also warned that he would impose tariffs of over 60% on Chinese goods while campaigning. According to information published in the British newspaper Telegraph, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is planning to use a carrot-and-stick strategy to push Russia and Ukraine to join peace talks. The plan states that the U.S. will cut or completely stop military aid to Ukraine to force it to start negotiations with Russia, and Washington also issued an ultimatum to Moscow, threatening to increase economic sanctions and other pressure measures if Russia delays the process of resolving the conflict. President-elect Trump's advisors, including retired Army General Kate Kellogg, who has been tapped as special envoy for Ukraine, have proposed a number of options for ending the conflict, though they rely on a combination of pressure and incentives for both sides. They believe such an approach could lead to a quicker end to the fighting and a lasting peace in the region. During his campaign, Trump repeatedly vowed to end the conflict in Ukraine within 24 hours of taking office, but he has not offered any specifics on how he would achieve this goal. The media has reported that Trump intends to freeze the conflict along the current lines. Trump has repeatedly said that the amount of military aid to Ukraine needs to be reviewed, stressing that the United States should not bear the main burden of aid in the conflict. He has also expressed his willingness to engage with Russian leaders to find mutually acceptable solutions. However, some NATO experts and officials have expressed concerns about such initiatives. They believe that any agreement that would allow Russia to maintain control over Ukrainian territories could undermine the interests of the United States and its allies and set a precedent for further action. Meanwhile, Russian officials are optimistic that the new U.S. administration will reconsider its sanctions policy. Moscow hopes that under certain conditions, sanctions could be eased or lifted altogether, which would have a positive impact on the Russian economy. President Zelensky had previously firmly rejected the possibility of making any territorial concessions to Moscow, but has recently softened his stance. Experts say that Ukraine's losses on the battlefield and Russia's advances have prompted Zelensky to change his stance. In a recent interview, President Zelensky said that Ukraine is open to signing a ceasefire agreement with Russia if the territories currently controlled by Ukraine are placed under NATO protection, while the territories controlled by Moscow will be restored later through diplomatic means. He admitted that Ukraine cannot regain the lost territories by military force. We will continue to update the latest information to send to you and your friends. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye, and see you again.